Okay, this is the final example for that tougher trig graphs worksheet. So this time we're going to graph this function, this cosecant function, and we're going to do that with a lot of detail, just like you were supposed to for your assignment. So if you remember, first if we have a cosecant function, we need to graph the guide function that corresponds to it. So sine corresponds to cosecant, so I'm going to graph that sine function as the guide. That's where I'll kind of start out. Also, if you remember, if we have both of these types of transformations here, one that affects the period and one that affects a phase shift, remember this 2 is really intermingling or affecting the pi over 2 transformation. Hence, you need to factor that first. So let's talk about 2 different ways we could factor that. So I need to write this in factored form, just like you do before you try to do any of yours, or your phase shift is going to be wrong. It's kind of sneaky. So let's see. So I need to factor out a -2. So that's what I'm going to factor out. So obviously the first part is x. If I pull out a -2, if I pull a negative out of a positive, that's going to change that to a minus, right? And now this is the part where a lot of people are going to have trouble, I think. You could think about it 2 ways. You can guess and check. Maybe I should put pi here. If I put pi here, the -2 times pi, that's not pi over 2. And you can just keep guessing in like fashion. If you want to do it the other way, remember, factoring means division. That's what factoring really means. So really, when you're factoring -2 out of this quantity, it's like taking that quantity and dividing by -2. So you get -pi over 4 in that case. And I already have the negative right there, so I'm just gonna put pi over 4. And then if you're unsure, you can distribute back through, and yes, you are gonna get a half. So that's correct. Hold on a sec, guys, sorry. So we have all our stuff now. So our guide function has an amplitude of 3. It's reflected both ways, right? This reflects it down because -y values live down here, and this is a -x value, so it's going to reflect it both ways. So let's put reflected over both. So we've got to do that. The period is 2 pi divided by, hopefully you can tell me it's the 2 that affects that, so that's going to be pi. And then we've got it going right, and because of our factoring, we're not going to make a mistake, and it's going to be right by pi over 4. So that's kind of the guide function that we have to graph. So okay, we're going to go up and down 3. Our period is pi now, so I'm going to scale this by pi's, so we'll say 2 pi, pi, -pi, -2 pi. And then I have to go right a quarter, so you could do that in 2 separate curves if you like, or you can not. Good luck, guys. I'm sorry. So you can do that in 2 separate curves if you like, or you can not. I'm going to not this time. I'm going to try to think about this all at once, okay? So normally a sine function would start here and go up. Remember, ours is going down because of this minus, and really we're going to have to like flip it at the end of the day. So maybe I will do some erasing here. I'm kind of changing my mind. I'm going to do this one first. So I'm going to start, I'm going to ignore the phase shift and just kind of start thinking about what it looks like. So I think if I ignore the phase shift, it's that. So now I'm going to have to take that, move it right by pi over 4, so that way is right, and then I'm going to have to flip it over. So yeah, I guess I want to do this in a couple steps. So these points are all going to go right by a quarter. So some erasing is advised. And then I'm going to take that curve and I'm going to flip it over the axis. So you could maybe do this one back one more. So now I'm going to take that curve and flip it over the axis. So that's going to be a little bit sneaky. This is a tough one. So I'm going to take that and flip it this way. So like this part is going to come here, This card is gonna, you can even do it by points. Let's do it by points. That's what I'm thinking is better. So this point gets flipped here. This point gets flipped right here. I'm gonna draw this out a little bit more. There we go. This point gets flipped over to its cohort right here. This point gets flipped right here. And you kind of do as many as you need until you can really see it. So this point gets flipped about right there. This point gets flipped about right there, and I can kind of see it now. And I kind of have the pattern now, so I can get it. Okay, so that took a little bit of paying close attention to where these nodes or intercepts are so that I could be real careful about it. So I think I'm going to erase my blue curve now because it's just going to get in the way. So I'm going to erase that. So the green curve, remember we're still not done, the green curve is just the guide function. Our goal, so I'm going to erase that because I don't need it anymore. Our goal is to draw the cosecant. So remember, now you're going to put your asymptotes in, put them right through those intercepts, or in other words, around the peaks and valleys, and draw in your actual cosecant parabola guide. Parabola-ish guys, because they're not really parabolas. Okay, and we would have another one over here, but we've got it. So I hope that some of those tricks, techniques helped out.